In this transition logic tutorial, we're going to do something a little bit different than what we did in the first example. So in this example, what we're going to concentrate on is taking it one step further. An element this time going to go out another way. Another thing that we're going to do different is that our technique to create the toggle and the call-up scene is going to be a little bit different than taking that snapshot than we did in the previous version. Also, we're going to do it a little bit different too, in that we're going to create a call-up scene that has an image that we can swap out. And also this time we're going to use a text effects to animate our lower third in. So to begin this exercise, I have my TL2 folder where I'm going to make everything. And I'm going to come into my scene here and I'm just going to right click and create a new scene. Now we're going to start with the background or the master scene again, so I'm going to name this master. And I'm going to go ahead and double click this and open it up. Again, I'm going to start with a topmost group and throw everything in this group. So in this example, if I needed to throw a key function on it later, I can just throw it in the topmost group. Everything below it will key it. And again, I also like to organize my scene tree in a certain way. So this time I'm going to throw another group down here and call this lower third group, and everything that we're working with for the lower third is going to go inside of this group. And I'm going to do one more group here, and for me this is the way I like to do it because I just like to throw everything for the design into another group. So I'm going to go into my built-ins then and grab some type of object, and I'm just going to use a rectangle again, and we'll do the same thing kind of as we did last exercise. So I'm going to adjust the width to 700, the height to 50, and we'll use this built-in color generator again. So let's make one side red and we'll make the other side black or something like that, or a darker color, just so that we'll be able to see a little bit better. And if you want to slide these colors around too, you can do that, so you can grab them and just slide them if you want to kind of adjust where each color is. I'm going to reposition my lower third down to the bottom of the screen here. So now we're going to animate our lower third, and what I want to do is actually have our lower third come in one way but go out another way. So I want to have my lower third start off screen at the bottom, and I'm going to set a keyframe right there. I'm going to have it come in, rest right here, and then it's going to go off to the right hand side of the screen like that. Now when I hit play after I set all my keyframes, you can see what's happening here. It's by default a smooth animation, so we need to fix this first. And if you turn on your bounding box and right click within the window here, you have a little animation that we can select, and it shows you the Bezier keyframe handles here that you can adjust that way. Or we could go into the stage and select our keyframes. Now once you have a keyframe selected, we also have these path or Bezier handles that we can turn off here, and this will make our animation linear as well. So when I select each keyframe and turn this off, you can see how it changes our path here of our animation. I hit play again and the animation's a bit different. So now I'm going to come in and rename my director and add my stop points. So first things first, I'm going to rename the director by right clicking on it, and this time I want to call this one L3. I'm going to go ahead and start adding my stop points. So I'm going to rewind my timeline to the first keyframe, select the director, and click Add Stop. I'm going to click on the stop point to rename it, and my first stop point here, since the graphic is out, I'm going to call it capital O. I'm going to move my timeline to the second stop point, select the director, and click Add Stop. This is where the graphic rests, or our first state, so I'm going to call this one A. And then I'm going to move the timeline once again to my last keyframe, select the director, and add. Now since graphic is off screen again, or out, I'm going to call this one capital O. Now I just need to go back and add my toggle group. So I'm going to add a new group within my lower third group here, and I'm going to call this group the exact same thing as our director, which was L3. I'm going to go into our built-ins and go get our toggle function, which is found in the container functions, and I'm going to drag this toggle onto my L3 group. I'll click on my toggle function and I'm going to hit default keyframes. When I do that, it adds this animation here, and if we go into the stage, you can see that it also added additional directors here with some animation. So the last thing I want to do here is take a snapshot. So I'm going to go to the TL2 folder, into my I tab, and take a snapshot. I'm just going to call this L3 here, and I'm going to save my scene then, since we're all set to go to make the call up scene. So next we're going to make the call up scene. I'm back in my S tab. I'm going to right click and say create new scene, and we're going to call this L3 call up. I'm going to hit OK. So I'm going to double click to open up this L3 call up. First thing that I do is create a new group, and I'm going to throw my font in this group. So I'm going to go get my font and slide it down into that group. Another thing that I want to do is also just grab my snapshot here so that I have a place to line it up. and I'm just going to throw this in the background image in the scene settings. Now I'm going to come to my font and place it over top of my lower third bar here. So I move the position X and the position Y, and I also want to account for the Z position, so I'm going to move this up 2 in Z position as well. This time we want to animate our text on with some text effects, so I'm going to come into my text effects folder and use one of these functions here to animate on our text. So I'm just going to use this TFX scale, and we have a progress percentage here set to 0, and our timeline is set to 0. So I'm going to set keyframe right there, and then I'm going to adjust our progress percentage to 100% and set another keyframe. So you can see now that we hit play how our font now animates on. The last step I need to do in this particular case is to add a control function for the text. So I'm going to go into my control function plugins, find the control text, and I'm going to drag this down onto our font. I can change the field identifier and the description here if I want. So if I want to type in lower third here, I can do that. I'm going to leave the field identifier at 1. When we did drag this text control down here, it automatically added the control object. So I'm going to turn on my transition logic and fill out my variables here. The background scene we know it's called master. Our state identifier is called L3. That's the director or toggle group we created. Our state identifier was A. So I'm going to go ahead and save this scene. The next step would be to test it in Trio. And once we're in Trio, we're going to see how this reacts, and we may need to jump back into Artist or the master scene to make some adjustments here. So once in Trio, I'm going to come over and import my scenes. I'm going to navigate to where my folder is and find the scene. So here's my L3 call up, and I'm just going to import it by dragging over. So I'm going to minimize my Trio, bring up my Artist, and we're going to test this out and see how it reacts. So first thing that I do when I have my page here, I'm going to right click and do a direct take out. And when I do a direct take, you can see how our font comes in and animates on it as well. So we're going to do a direct take out again. The font goes out, and when we do a direct take, you can see how the bar animates in one way. The font also animates in with that text effects, and now when we do a direct take out, the lower third bar goes out the way that we wanted it to. Now, if you needed to go back in and tweak some of these settings for the speed and stuff, you can do that as well. We're running locally here, Trio and the engine on the same machine, so it's running a little bit slow. You just have to take into account that factor if you are testing on one machine.